And welcome back. This is a worst to best. A quick one, because there's only three people to fit in this category, which came to me from Bart Simpson, who asked the question, who do I think is the best Spider-Man? Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, or Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland. Now, obviously, you got to count Peter Parker in there as well because they both play Peter Parker. So, who do I, in what order do I think I rank them? From worst to best, how do I rank them? Now, I should know, I don't think any of them are bad. But, obviously, there are better aspects to them than others. So, the worst one I think of the bunch is Tobey Maguire. Again, that doesn't mean he's bad, it's just he's the least of the three. Why do I think he's the least? Well, a couple things come to mind when I think about it. A, he was way too dorky. And I'm not talking Spider-Man 3, though, at this moment, though that does come into play. He was way too dorky, though. Like, seriously, Peter Parker's supposed to be awkward, but he's not supposed to be like, I hunch. Now you can blame bad writing on that. But, the actor's supposed to do what he can, and he doesn't come off as that, as an awkward teen. He comes off as almost like a creeper. He does. He always comes off like a creeper. So, I do think Tobey comes in at number one number three in that regard as well. Also, as Spider-Man, I don't know. When I look at Spider-Man, something doesn't sit right with me at how Spider-Man looks in this. Like, he seems almost a little pudgy. Not fat, but thicker. Like he's a guy, and this is going to sound weird. He's a guy wearing a Spider-Man costume. He's not Spider-Man. It's kind of like with Val Kilmer or George Clooney. They're not guys. They're not Batman. They're just people. Well, maybe not Val Kilmer, but it's not Batman. It's someone wearing a Batman costume. Kind of the same feeling I get with Tobey Maguire. Oh, and frankly, when we got to the third one, it's clear that he wasn't taking the role as seriously as he should have been. And again, that's partly due to writing, but also just, what we see from the character is partly responsible, or on the responsibility of the director and the script. So we can't blame everything that these actors did wrong on them. However, there's just the fact that he was the organic websters didn't bother me so much, but the fact that his powers disappeared because he was having doubts made no sense. That was a story element, but it was also playing in and you know what? The Nostalgia Critic, when he did the old versus new, brought up the really good point. Is that comparing Andrew Garfield to Tobey Maguire, and one gives up Spider-Man because his girlfriend died, the other gives it up because it was hard. Seriously, dude, that's not Spider-Man. That's not Spider-Man. I'm sorry. Now, that being said, though, as we get, especially in Spider-Man 2, and while that part of him is in Spider-Man 2, we see the burden of a great power with great power comes great responsibility with this Peter Parker and Spider-Man. We do see the awkward teenager side of him. Unfortunately, that's another problem I have, is that Tobey Maguire did not look like a teenager even in the earliest one. Now, granted, he's graduating high school in the first one, so he's not in high school very long, but it doesn't matter because he doesn't look any different. They never give us an idea of how long it's been. I don't think they have, anyway. Or do, anyway. But that's a problem right there, is that they don't give us an idea how long has passed, so it still looks the same, and he already looks like he's in his 20s instead of being a teenager. So, there's another big problem with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. But again, he knew the physicality well, even though it's like stunt choreography, he still does fine. He does seem to have the quippy one-liners a little bit. As Spider-Man, he does seem to embody the general principle of Spider-Man, a guy who enjoys being Spider-Man, enjoys web slinging. So yeah, ultimately he's ultimately he's not my favorite Spider-Man. He is my least favorite Spider-Man. Then obviously what we're gonna, you'll know what my number one is when I say my number two. My number two is Andrew Garfield. Now Andrew Garfield isn't quite as awkward as as Tobey Maguire's is, but at the same time, he definitely is he's more eccentric than awkward. Like he comes off less like a loser and more like an outcast. So there is a little disparity there. But he's a lot more quippier. He's definitely a much more cocky Spider-Man, more cocky hero we got in the comics, and how it's normally he's normally perceived as. So I definitely think they got that right. Also, and this goes to Tom Holland, who clearly you know is my number one. They're much thinner and more lithe, but they're still clearly in shape. Tobey Maguire just put on too much weight, like too much muscle for the role, and I think he just didn't have the right body type in my mind for Spider-Man. When I look at Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland, they both look like they look like Spider. They don't look like someone just put on a Spider-Man costume. They look like Spider-Man to me. A little less in the second one, I'll admit. The fact that he added the white eyes and stuff like that, I actually like the costume design changed up a bit in the second movie, the Amazing Spider-Man, and I'll admit I think it looked a little better in the first movie. But no, he's still the wisecracker because he's also a thinner built guy. He's able to illustrate the more flexible nature of Spider-Man. Same with Tom Holland as well. Even though a lot of that's CGI, it still goes without saying that because Tobey Maguire is a bit more of a, I guess chunky is the word we're going to go with, a chunkier looking guy in comparison, it doesn't look like it flows as naturally when he's moving around like that. Whereas with Tom Holland or Andrew Garfield, they're much thinner, leaner, and built individuals. So it works better that they're moving at these angles and at this pace and stuff like that. It just looks better to me on screen. Also, we get a lot bit more of him interacting with Uncle Ben and the relationship they kind of had. Maybe not exactly, I guess, because we did get a lot of that initially in the Tobey Maguire film. But I don't know. To me, Tom Holland seems a bit more. It seems a bit more at home in the costume than Tobey Maguire did. Seems to just fit a bit more of the spots the character needs to be in. Tom Holland, obviously being my number one, fit pretty much every spot. First and foremost, now see, Andrew Garfield, I'll always say, looked a bit younger than Tobey Maguire did, and because he's thinner, again, it helps him look younger and look like he belongs in high school a bit easier. But Tom Holland actually is only in his early 20s. Therefore, he's also looks young. He looks like he's in high school. He actually still does look like that. So that already gives him a leg up over Toby or Andrew. But what Tom did that the other two didn't is that he did capture the awkward Peter Parker in the right context. Like I was going with Tobey Maguire. Tobey Maguire certainly tried to be awkward, but he was too awkward. He was like that quiet, creepy kid who just stares at you half the time. Like, yeah, that's not kind of how Peter was. He was awkward. Yeah, he was nerdy, but that's not quite the level of quiet nerdy he was, or awkward nerdy he was. Tom, it's clear he's not a popular kid. He's got a friend. He can still be kind of quippy, but at the same time, it's like he's picked on. He's by Flash, that is a weird version of Flash, if I'm going to be honest. He gets picked on by Flash. He's still awkward, like he's awkward around Liz, asking her. He's a kid. But when he goes out and he talks to the people who regularly know him, like the guy who owned the shop, or the deli or whatever, he's he clearly has a good repertoire with him, so he can be more himself. Whereas when he's in a social environment, he's definitely more awkward. And then I think he's the one who illustrated more than anything how much he just loves being Spider-Man. Like the fact that Tony gave him the suit and everything, he loves being Spider-Man and helping people. He wants to be doing more. Hence, the whole point is like he feels he's an Avenger now, but he wants to be more than Lester Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So they really captured that well. And also just, him trying really hard to be the cool badass when it kind of encompassed all of them, all of the good that both Tobey and Andrew brought, and kind of encompasses in this new, a solid interpretation of the character for me. So on that grant, I gotta go Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland. That's my order, with Tom Holland being number one, obviously. But what do you think? In what order is your favorite Spider-Man ranked? Is it, do you prefer Andrew over Tobey, Tom over Tobey, Andrew over Tobey, Tobey over all of them? So, yeah, I just made it immediately sound like I was like, hey, he's dissing Tobey. It's like, look, yeah, it's my least favorite. Doesn't mean I hate him. So, I mean, what's your ranking? So, let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, though. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. And ideas for who would win, Star Wars, superhero, magic, what if, anything I do on the channel. Put that in the comments below. Let me know. I'll get to that at some point. So, thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with what if and who would win. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Later.